The ambulance lights painted the Seattle street in flashes of red and blue as David Chen knelt on the wet pavement, clutching his 5-year-old daughter against his chest. Lily was crying, but she was alive. That's all that mattered. Behind him, police officers were talking to witnesses, their voices blending into white noise. David couldn't focus on any of it. All he could see was the moment replaying in his mind on loop. The moment his daughter slipped his hand. The moment she ran toward the street. The moment the delivery truck came barreling around the corner. And the moment a homeless man appeared out of nowhere and threw himself forward, grabbing Lily and rolling with her to safety just as the truck's horn blared and tires screeched. "Sir, we need to check her vitals one more time," a paramedic said gently, and David reluctantly loosened his grip. His hands were shaking so badly he had to press them against his knees. He was the CEO of a tech company worth $3 billion. He had given presentations to thousands of people without breaking a sweat. He had negotiated deals that made or broke careers. But right now, watching a paramedic examine his daughter for injuries that might have killed her, he had never felt more powerless in his entire life. "Daddy, I'm okay," Lily said, her small hand reaching for his face. "The nice man saved me. Where is he? I want to say thank you." David looked around, suddenly realizing the homeless man was gone. In the chaos of the ambulance arriving and making sure Lily was safe, the person who had risked his own life had simply disappeared. A police officer walked over, notebook in hand, his expression professional but kind. "Mr. Chen, I know this has been traumatic, but I need to ask you some questions about what happened," the officer said. "The man who saved my daughter, where did he go?" David asked, his voice rough with emotion. He was barely holding back. Several witnesses said he left as soon as the ambulance arrived, heading south on 4th Avenue. One witness said he looked injured, might have hurt his arm or shoulder in the fall, but he wouldn't wait for medical attention. The officer paused. "Sir, did you know him?" "No, I've never seen him before in my life." David's throat tightened. A complete stranger had put himself in front of a moving truck to save Lily, while David, her own father, had been too slow, too distracted by his phone call about quarterly earnings to keep proper hold of her hand. The guilt was crushing. The paramedic stood up. "She's completely fine. No injuries, just shaken up. You can take her home. But Mr. Chen, you might want to consider talking to someone about this. Trauma affects parents too." David nodded absently, lifting Lily into his arms. She wrapped her legs around his waist and buried her face in his neck, and he felt her tears soak through his expensive shirt. "It's okay, baby. You're safe. Daddy's got you." But even as he said it, David knew he hadn't been the one to keep her safe. A homeless man had done what David had failed to do. The thought burned through him like acid. His phone buzzed. His assistant, probably wondering why he'd missed the afternoon board meeting. David had been on his way to the most important presentation of the quarter when he'd stopped at Riverside Coffee to grab Lily from his ex-wife. Wednesday afternoons were his custody time. Jennifer had been running late, frazzled and apologetic, shoving Lily's backpack at him while taking a work call. David had been annoyed, checking his watch, thinking about the board waiting for him. He'd grabbed Lily's hand too loosely, his attention split between his daughter and the text from his CFO about revised projections. Then Lily had seen a butterfly, a yellow butterfly, her favorite. She'd pulled free from his distracted grip and run toward it, straight into the street, and David's entire world had almost ended because he'd been too focused on profit margins to hold his daughter's hand properly. "I'm sorry," he whispered into Lily's hair. "I'm so sorry, baby." "It's okay, Daddy. The man was really fast, like a superhero." Lily pulled back to look at him, her brown eyes still wet with tears but wide with wonder. He had a scar on his face and his clothes were dirty, but he smiled at me. He said, "You're safe now, little soldier." Why did he call me soldier, Daddy? Something cold washed over David. Little soldier. That phrase. He hadn't heard it in 20 years, but it was so specific, so familiar. His mind raced backward through time, through memories he'd tried to bury, through a version of himself that felt like a different person entirely. "What else did he say, Lily? Did he say anything else?" He said, "Your dad loves you very much. Don't ever forget that." Then the ambulance came and he left. Lily touched David's face. "Daddy, why are you crying?" David hadn't even realized he was. Tears were streaming down his face, hot and unstoppable. Little soldier. That's what Lieutenant Marcus Hayes used to call the younger soldiers in their platoon. David had been 22 years old, fresh out of college with an ROTC commission, idealistic and terrified. Marcus had been 30, already on his third deployment, the kind of soldier who made everyone around him better just by existing, the kind of leader who remembered everyone's birthday and kept photos of their families in his pocket and never, ever left anyone behind, the kind of leader who had saved David's life in Kandahar. David had been searching for Marcus for 15 years, ever since he came home from Afghanistan and found out Marcus had been medically discharged, fallen through the cracks of the VA system, and disappeared. David had hired private investigators. He'd donated millions to veterans organizations. He'd personally funded housing programs and mental health services, always hoping that somehow, somewhere, Marcus would benefit from them. He'd never stopped, looking for the man who had carried him 3 miles through enemy territory with a bullet in his own leg, refusing to leave David behind when their convoy was ambushed. And today, Marcus had saved his daughter's life. If you're already feeling the weight of this story, please take a moment to hit that subscribe button. We share powerful, true stories about ordinary people doing extraordinary things, and your support helps us bring these stories to light. Drop a comment below if you've ever had a stranger change your life. David set Lily down carefully and turned to the police officer. "I need to find him, the man who saved my daughter. I need every detail you have, every witness statement, everything." The officer looked puzzled. "Sir, we can certainly try to locate him to thank him, but—" "You don't understand," David interrupted, his voice cracking. "That man saved my life 20 years ago in Afghanistan. He's the reason I'm standing here. He's the reason I have a daughter to save. And I've been looking for him for 15 years. I'm not letting him disappear again." The coffee shop manager brought David a bottle of water while he sat with Lily at one of the outdoor tables, waiting for Jennifer to arrive. His ex-wife had called back immediately. When he texted her what happened, her voice panicked and breaking. She was 20 minutes away, stuck in traffic, crying so hard she could barely speak. David told her to drive carefully, that Lily was fine, but he could hear the guilt in her voice matching his own. They were both supposed to protect their daughter. They'd both failed. "Mr. Chen?" A young woman approached hesitantly, holding her phone. "I'm sorry to bother you, but I saw what happened. I recorded some of it on my phone. I thought maybe you'd want it, to show the police or something." David's heart jumped. "You have video of the man who saved her?" "Yes, sir. Not great quality, but you can see him clearly." She handed over her phone, and David pressed play with shaking hands. The video started just as Lily broke free from his grip. David watched himself lunge forward, too slow, too late, his face a mask of horror. Then the homeless man entered the frame from the left side, moving with a speed that seemed impossible. He was thin, wearing layers of dirty clothes, a worn military jacket visible underneath. His grey hair was long and tangled, his face weathered and scarred. But the way he moved, diving forward and scooping Lily up in one smooth motion, rolling with her away from the truck's path, protecting her head with his hand, that was pure training, pure instinct, pure Marcus Hayes. The truck's horn blared, tires screamed. The man rolled to his feet, still holding Lily, checking her over with quick, efficient movements, combat medic movements. Then he set her down gently, said something David couldn't hear, and looked directly at the camera for just a second. Even through the grainy phone video, even through 20 years and homelessness and whatever hell Marcus had lived through, David recognized those eyes. "Can you send this to me?" David asked, his voice barely steady. "Please, it's important." "Of course." The woman took back her phone, and David rattled off his email address. "Is that really your daughter? Is she okay?" "She's perfect, thanks to that man." David looked at Lily, who was drinking juice the barista had brought her, swinging her legs and humming, oblivious to how close she'd come to dying. "Did you see where he went?" He walked south, toward the Pike Place area. He was limping a little. She hesitated. "Mr. Chen, I recognize you from the news. You're the tech CEO, right? The one who donated all that money to the veteran housing project last year?" David nodded absently, still staring at Lily. "That man was wearing a military jacket. Maybe he's a veteran. Maybe your housing project helped him." The irony was almost too much. David had spent millions trying to find Marcus, trying to help veterans like him. And Marcus had been here in Seattle the whole time, possibly even benefiting from David's programs without either of them knowing. Or maybe not benefiting at all. Maybe Marcus had fallen through the cracks despite everything David had tried to do. Jennifer's car screeched to a stop at the curb, and she jumped out, not even closing the door. She ran to Lily and swept her up, sobbing into her hair. "Baby, oh my God, baby, are you okay?" "Mommy, I'm fine. A superhero saved me," Lily said. But Jennifer wasn't listening, just holding her and crying. David stood up, giving them space. He walked a few steps away and called his head of security, a former Secret Service agent named Patricia Rodriguez. "Patricia, I need you to drop everything. I need every available person on the street right now, searching the area around Pike Place Market. I'm sending you a video. The man in it is a homeless veteran, probably injured. I need him found. Today, right now." If this story is already pulling at your heart, please take a second to subscribe to our channel. We share incredible true stories about real people and real moments that restore faith in humanity. Hit that like button and drop a comment telling us about a time someone helped you when you needed it most. Your support helps us keep bringing these stories to you. "Understood, sir. What's the situation?" Patricia's voice was calm, professional. "The situation is that man saved my daughter's life an hour ago, and I've been searching for him for 15 years. His name is Marcus Hayes. He was my platoon leader in Afghanistan, and I'm not letting him disappear again." There was a brief pause. "The Marcus Hayes from the Kandahar incident?" "Yes." David's voice cracked. "It's him, Patricia. After all this time, it's really him. And he's living on the streets. I'm mobilizing the team now. We'll find him, sir. I promise." David hung up and walked back to Jennifer and Lily. His ex-wife looked up at him with red, swollen eyes. "David, what happened? How did you let her run into the street?" The accusation stung because it was fair. "I was distracted. I'm sorry. I was on my phone, and I wasn't holding her hand properly, and she saw a butterfly and—" He stopped, his throat closing. "I failed her, Jen. I almost got our daughter killed." Jennifer's face softened. She reached out and squeezed his hand. "But she's okay. Someone saved her." "Not someone. Marcus. Marcus Hayes saved her." Jennifer's eyes went wide. She knew about Marcus. She'd been there through the nightmares, the therapy, the years of David searching and donating and trying to make peace with the fact that he owed his entire life to a man he couldn't find. "Are you sure?" "I'm sure." He called her little soldier. That's his phrase. "And I saw him on video. It's him, Jen. After 15 years, I finally found him. And now I just have to find him again before he disappears." Marcus Hayes sat on a bench in Victor Steinbruch Park, watching the sunset paint Elliott Bay in shades of orange and gold. His left shoulder throbbed where he'd hit the pavement, but he'd felt worse. Much worse. The pain was manageable. What wasn't manageable was the memory of those eyes, the little girl's father standing on that sidewalk in his expensive suit, terror on his face. Marcus had only seen him for a second before focusing on the child. But it had been enough. David Chen, Second Lieutenant David Chen, 20 years older but unmistakable. The kid Marcus had carried 3 miles through hell with a bullet in his own leg and shrapnel in his side. The kid who'd cried and apologized the whole way, saying he was sorry, so sorry. He should have seen the ambush coming. The kid Marcus had refused to leave behind even when his own body was screaming at him to stop, to rest, to give up. Marcus had saved David's life in Kandahar, and today, 20 years later, he'd saved David's daughter without David even recognizing him. The symmetry was almost funny. Almost. "You're bleeding, friend." A social worker named Tom approached, holding a first aid kit. Tom worked the downtown area, checking on the homeless population, offering resources most people were too proud or too broken to accept. "Let me look at that shoulder." "It's fine," Marcus said automatically. "It's not fine. You're holding it weird. Sit still." Tom opened the kit and started cleaning the scrape on Marcus's shoulder. "Word on the street is you saved a kid today. Threw yourself in front of a truck." "She was just a little girl. Anyone would have done it." "But not everyone did. You did." Tom applied antibiotic ointment with gentle hands. "You know, there's a shelter opening next week. New place, fully funded, specifically for veterans. They've got job training, mental health services, the whole deal. Some tech CEO donated millions to get it running. You should check it out." Marcus almost laughed. "David's money, probably." David had always been a good kid with a big heart. Of course he'd grown up to be the type of CEO who actually gave a damn about veterans. "I'm not ready for that." "You've been saying that for 3 years, Marcus. When will you be ready?" "Maybe never." Marcus stood up, wincing. "Thanks for the patch job, Tom." "Marcus, wait. That little girl's father was asking about you. He wants to thank you." Marcus froze. "He was asking about me?" "Yeah. Apparently he's some big-shot businessman, and he's got people out looking for you right now. Security team, the works. Said it's important." Tom studied Marcus's face. "You know him?" "I used to." Marcus's voice was rough. "Long time ago, different life." "Maybe this is a chance to reconnect, get some help. This guy clearly has resources." "I don't want his resources." Marcus started walking away, his limp more pronounced now that the adrenaline was wearing off. "I don't want his guilt money, or his thank you, or his pity. I did what anyone would do, that's the end of it." But it wasn't the end of it. As Marcus walked through Pike Place Market, he saw them. Security personnel in civilian clothes, trying to look casual, but obviously searching for someone. David's people. They had his photograph, Marcus realized, with a jolt. An old photograph from their army days, but recent enough that someone might recognize him despite the years and the homelessness that had weathered his face. Marcus ducked into a side alley, his heart pounding. He didn't want to be found. didn't want David to see what he'd become. The Marcus Hayes who'd been a decorated lieutenant, who'd saved lives and led men and believed in honor and duty, that Marcus was dead. The man who remained was just a shell, surviving day to day, haunted by faces he couldn't save and choices he couldn't undo. After Afghanistan, there had been medical discharge, then the VA hospital where they'd pumped him full of pills that made him feel like a zombie. Then the diagnosis: severe PTSD, traumatic brain injury, chronic pain. Then the bills he couldn't pay, and the job he couldn't hold, and the apartment he couldn't afford. Then the descent, slow and inexorable, from housed to couch surfing, to shelter, to street. It had taken 5 years to lose everything. It had been 10 years since he'd had a home. And in all that time, Marcus had deliberately avoided anything connected to his past. He'd thrown away his medals, destroyed his military records, cut ties with everyone who knew Lieutenant Hayes. Because that person deserved to be mourned and forgotten, not pitied and rescued. His phone buzzed. Marcus still had a phone, a cheap, prepaid thing he kept charged at the library. It was Tom. "Marcus, I know you don't want to hear this, but that CEO is offering a $50,000 reward to anyone who helps locate you. Says he needs to thank you personally. This is serious, man. You should reach out." $50,000. The number was obscene. That was more than Marcus had made in the last decade combined. David was throwing money at the problem the way rich people always did, thinking cash could solve anything. Marcus typed back, "Tell him I don't want his money. Tell him the little girl was payment enough. We're even." "Even for what?" Tom replied. Marcus didn't answer. He couldn't explain Kandahar in a text message, couldn't explain the debt that had haunted David for 20 years, the debt David had apparently never forgotten. They weren't even. They'd never be even. David owed Marcus his life, and Marcus owed David something bigger, the chance to let go of that debt and move forward. By saving Lily, Marcus had given David that chance. Now, David needed to take it and stop searching for ghosts. Marcus powered off his phone and headed toward the overpass where he'd been sleeping lately. Tomorrow he'd move to a different area, somewhere David's security team wouldn't think to look. He'd disappear again, the way he'd been disappearing for a decade. It was better this way, for both of them. David didn't sleep that night. He sat in his home office, watching the video of Marcus saving Lily on repeat, studying every frame. Jennifer had taken Lily home to her place, wanting to keep her close after the scare. David had agreed without argument. He needed to focus, and focus meant finding Marcus before the trail went cold. Patricia called at 6 a.m. "Sir, we have a lead. One of the social workers downtown, guy named Tom Williams, he knows your man, says he treated his injuries yesterday after the incident, but there's a problem." "What problem?" "Marcus doesn't want to be found. He specifically asked Tom to tell you he doesn't want your money or your thanks. Said saving your daughter made you even, whatever that means." David's chest tightened. Even. Marcus thought one act of heroism balanced out Kandahar. Thought saving Lily's life somehow paid the debt of carrying David 3 miles while bleeding out. It was so typical of Marcus, so selfless and stubborn and wrong. Did Tom say where Marcus is staying? He wouldn't give an exact location, said it would be a violation of trust, but he did say Marcus moves around a lot, usually stays near the waterfront or under the overpasses. "Sir, I think we need to respect his wishes. If he doesn't want to be found—" "I don't care what he wants," David interrupted, then immediately felt guilty. "I'm sorry, Patricia. I know that sounds harsh, but Marcus saved my life 20 years ago and I never got to thank him properly. He disappeared into the VA system and I lost track of him. I've spent 15 years trying to find him, trying to help veterans because I couldn't help him specifically. And now he's here, living on the streets in my city, and he saves my daughter's life and disappears again. No, I'm not letting that happen. What do you want me to do? Find Tom Williams. Tell him I need to meet with him. Tell him I'll donate $1 million to whatever cause he cares about if he helps me. Tell him Marcus is family, and family doesn't abandon family. 2 hours later, David sat across from Tom at a downtown diner. The social worker was in his 40s with kind eyes and the weary competence of someone who'd seen too much suffering. He stirred his coffee slowly, studying David with open skepticism. "You're serious about this?" Tom said. It wasn't a question. "Completely serious. Marcus Hayes is the reason I'm alive, the reason my daughter exists, and I need to see him, talk to him, help him if he'll let me." "He won't let you. I've known Marcus for 3 years, and he's one of the most stubborn men I've ever met. He doesn't accept help, doesn't want charity, refuses to stay in shelters most nights because he says other people need the beds more than he does." Tom leaned forward. "Mr. Chen, I respect what you're trying to do. But sometimes the kindest thing we can do for people is respect their boundaries, even if those boundaries are killing them. He's not dying, he's surviving."
"There's a difference. Surviving isn't living," David said, his voice sharp with frustration. "Marcus taught me that. In Afghanistan, when things were at their worst, he used to say that survival without purpose is just slow death. He made us believe we could do more than just survive, and now he's given up on that for himself, and I'm supposed to just accept it?" Tom was quiet for a long moment. "What happened in Afghanistan? Marcus never talks about his service." David closed his eyes, the memories flooding back. The heat, the dust, the ambush that came out of nowhere, the RPG that took out their lead vehicle, the firefight that lasted hours. David taking shrapnel to his leg, unable to walk. Marcus, already wounded, refusing to leave him behind. The rest of the platoon pinned down, unable to help. Marcus making the decision to carry David out alone through 3 miles of hostile territory while bleeding from his own wounds. "He saved my life when he should have saved himself,"
David said quietly. "He could have left me and gotten to safety. Instead, he carried me, talked to me the whole way, kept me conscious. Told me about his plans after discharge, about the family he wanted to start, the life he wanted to build. And then we got rescued, and they medevaced us both out, and I woke up in a hospital in Germany. By the time I was stable enough to ask about Marcus, they told me he'd been transferred stateside for surgery. I tried to find him after I got home, but the records were a mess. Medical discharge, VA hospital, then nothing, like he'd vanished. And you've been looking ever since. Every day, I built my company partly because I thought if I had enough money and resources, I could find him, I could help him. I could somehow repay what he did for me." David's voice cracked. "And yesterday I found out he's been here, in my own city, living on the streets. How is that possible? How did I miss him? If you're invested in this story, we need your help to share it. Hit that like button, drop a comment about what you would do in David's situation, and subscribe so you never miss stories like this. Real people, real struggles, real hope. Let's build this community together." Tom sighed. "Marcus is good at being invisible. It's a survival skill out there. And Mr. Chen, you need to understand something. Marcus might not want to be saved. Some people carry guilt that's heavier than anything else. Maybe he doesn't think he deserves help. That's ridiculous. Marcus is a hero." "Heroes often have the hardest time forgiving themselves." Tom pulled out his phone. "I'll make you a deal. I'll tell you where Marcus usually is this time of morning. But you have to promise me something. If he tells you to leave, you leave. His autonomy matters, even if his choices don't make sense to you." Agreed. Tom wrote an address on a napkin. Pier 57, there's a spot under the boardwalk where Marcus sits sometimes, watches the water. He might be there. Now? David grabbed the napkin, his heart racing. Thank you. Don't thank me yet? Marcus might not react the way you hope. David found Marcus exactly where Tom said he'd be, sitting under the boardwalk at Pier 57, staring out at the grey water of Puget Sound. Even from behind, even with the long grey hair and the worn military jacket, David recognized the set of his shoulders. The way he held himself, alert even in stillness. Marcus had always been like that, aware of everything around him, ready for anything. David's footsteps echoed on the wooden planks as he approached. Marcus didn't turn around, but his posture shifted slightly. He knew someone was there. I don't have anything worth stealing, Marcus said, his voice rougher than David remembered, weathered by years and whatever demons he'd been fighting. I'm not here to take anything, David said quietly. I'm here to say thank you. Marcus went completely still. Then, slowly, he turned around. Their eyes met, and David saw the moment recognition hit. Marcus's face, scarred and aged, but still unmistakably his, went through a series of
emotions, shock, pain, something that looked like grief. David, Marcus said, and his voice broke on the name. Lieutenant Hayes. David's own voice wasn't much steadier. It's been a long time. You shouldn't be here. Marcus stood up, and David noticed the limp, the way he favored his left side. Old wounds that never healed properly. You should be home with your daughter, making sure she's okay. She is okay because of you. David took a step closer. Marcus, you saved her life. You threw yourself in front of a truck for a child you'd never met. How do I thank you for that? You don't. We're even now. Kandahar is paid for. You can stop looking for me. Marcus started to walk away, but David moved to block his path. We're not even. We'll never be even. And I didn't spend 15 years searching for you because of debt. I searched because your family, because you mattered to me, because I needed to know you were okay. Well, now you know. Marcus gestured at himself.
bitterly. This is me. This is what okay looks like. Hope it was worth the search. Don't do that, David said, his voice sharp. Don't pretend this is what you want. The Marcus Hayes I knew believed every person had value, that everyone deserved dignity and purpose. Where's that man now? He died in Kandahar, Marcus shot back. What came back was just the shell. You want to thank me? Great. You're welcome. Now leave me alone. I can't do that. Why not? Marcus's voice rose, pain and anger mixing together. Why can't you just let me go, David? I'm not the man you remember, that lieutenant who had all the answers, who kept everyone together. He's gone. What's left is broken and useless and better off forgotten. You saved my daughter yesterday, David said, his voice steady despite the tears on his face. You moved faster than men half your age. You protected her with your own body. You gave her comfort when she was scared. That doesn't sound broken or useless to me. That sounds
like the same man who carried me 3 miles while bleeding out. The same man who wouldn't leave anyone behind. Marcus turned away, his shoulders shaking. You don't understand what it's like. The things I see when I close my eyes. The faces I couldn't save. The missions that went wrong. The weight of all those lives, all those choices. It never stops, David. It never gets lighter. David moved to stand beside him, both of them looking out at the water. I know about the PTSD diagnosis. I know about the medical discharge and the VA hospital. I know you fell through the cracks, and I hate that I wasn't there to catch you. But I'm here now, Marcus. And I'm not asking you to be who you were 20 years ago. I'm asking you to let me help you become who you can be now. I don't want your charity. It's not charity, it's family, taking care of family. David pulled out a business card. I own a company. We have a veterans program, support services, housing, job training. I'm not asking
you to accept a handout. I'm offering you a job, security consultant. You'd help design better programs for vets, train our security team, use your experience to help others who are where you've been. Marcus stared at the card but didn't take it. Why would you trust me with that? I've been homeless for 10 years. Because you're the most trustworthy man I've ever known. Because yesterday, you proved you're still that man, whether you believe it or not. David set the card on the bench beside Marcus. My daughter wants to meet the superhero who saved her. Will you at least come to dinner? Let her say thank you properly? No strings attached. Just a meal and a little girl who thinks you're the bravest person in the world. Marcus's hand trembled as he picked up the card. I don't know if I can do this, David. Be around people again. Pretend I'm normal. You don't have to pretend anything. Just be yourself. The man who saves little girls from traffic. The man who still cares enough to protect strangers. That's more than enough. Marcus was quiet for a long moment, turning the card over in his weathered hands. Finally, he nodded. One dinner for the little girl, but David, I can't promise anything beyond that. One dinner is a start. David smiled through his tears. Thank you, Marcus, for everything, for Kandahar, for Lily, for not giving up, even when it felt impossible to keep going. I learned that from you, Marcus said quietly. In that hospital in Germany, you told me you were going to build something that mattered, that you were going to make the life I saved count for something. You kept that promise. Maybe it's time I kept mine too. 2 weeks later, Marcus Hayes stood in front of a room full of veterans, wearing clean clothes from the program David had connected him with, living in transitional housing, attending therapy twice a week. He was telling his story, the real story, about falling and finding a way back up. About the CEO who refused to let him disappear. About the little girl who reminded him why life was worth fighting for. And in the back of the room, David Chen sat with Lily on his lap, watching the man who'd saved both their lives finally save himself. If this story inspired you, please share it with someone who needs to hear it today. Subscribe for more heartwarming tales that remind us what truly matters. Drop a comment and tell us about a time someone refused to give up on you. Together we can build a community that believes in second chances, in the power of gratitude, and in never leaving anyone behind. Thank you for watching, and remember, heroes come in all forms, sometimes wearing worn jackets under boardwalks, still protecting, still caring, still mattering.